Welcome to another tutorial in IronCAD on Too Tall Toby's practice models dated 9/6/2024. This is a sheet metal latch bracket. A fairly simple model to do in IronCAD. Sheet metal will do everything in sheet metal plus a regular shape to cut this model out here to show you how to do that in IronCAD. But basically some critical dimensions, overall size 150 by 80 here on the base. Then we have this 7mm addition to this side here. And we know that we have a default thickness of 3mm and a minimum bend radius of 4. So let's go ahead and hop over to IronCAD and I'll show you how to design this in IronCAD sheet metal. Again, this is fairly simple to do. So I'm going to start in our sheet metal catalog. Again, you can come into our starter catalog and get into sheet metal, or you can select on more catalogs and go to sheet metal directly. Either one will have the same content, but we'll go ahead and drag and drop a stock. Usually defaulted in inches, but since we're in a millimeter file here, I'm just going to hit OK, and then I'll go into our part properties and just change the thickness and minimum bend radius here. So we do know it's 3mm thick for the thickness, and we know we have a minimum bend radius of 4. We'll just go ahead and type those two in and hit OK, and that will set us off in our starting point. So now, like again, we mentioned we have an overall dimension size of 150, outside to outside, and then we have a width of this. We're going to go ahead and set that to 80 to start off with. So that gives us our starting points for this. So that gives us our useful units inside of here. And a couple things that you can do here. I'll show you how you can set this as a global option, but also on the bends. I've done this before in the previous videos, but this is kind of useful to know. But we're going to go ahead and do an out bend here, and I'm going to drag and drop it near an edge, and it'll automatically set there so it maintains our overall size. What I'm going to show you is here, if you double click on these handles, you have these various settings for using the flange, outside sharp, and whatnot. So in our case, we know the outside sharp because we know the total depth of this is 30, so we're going to type in 30 for that. So we can click on these each time inside of here, but if you're commonly using that, just one thing you can do is go to the Tools Options, Sheet Metal, and you have an option here of what the length display is. So you can change that as a global option as well. So if you always are going to use outer sharp, for example, you can set that, and then when you drag and drop another out bend, for example, we drop one on the other side, and if we just happen to double click that, notice it's already defaulted there, and I can just type in that value of 30 there as well. So that just kind of saves us a step inside of there from always having to click on that tab. So anyways, that's our first one is our bend is 30, and then we need to add another bend coming on the inside. Again, we're going to use the out bend on this as well. Drag and drop that on there, and again, just double click that handle for your direction that you're going, or you can pull this out if you want, and then or double click it, whichever one you like to do. In this case, we know that needs to go out 25mm. We could also do a mirror command to do this, but in this case, I'm just going to drag and drop this on both of these out here and set those values to 25 for each of those to set that in there. So I can do it manually or do the mirror command. It's just faster for me to drop another one on there and be done with it. So anyways, I have that set for that particular shape. The next thing that we want to do is on our bend is we want to have a bend up on this direction, and it's on the outside 7mm. So I'm just going to drop a regular bend. I'm going to drop it right on the middle here because it'll automatically extend to side, but I dropped it on the middle, and I've shown this before. If you go to the IntelliShape properties, you can set how wide you want that to be from the center point. So I would say this overall distance is 60, so I want 30 on each end. That'll give me the total width of 60 on that. And we know for this height value, it's going to be a set distance from this bottom edge. And to do that, we can just simply right click and say edit distance from point. And we can select our bottom edge there, and we know that value is 55 from the bottom for that, and hit OK. So that's an easy way to do that. And to get our distance here, in this case, since it's adding that radius in here, this will give you a handy way to adjust this. But just to show you this, if you select on this bend at the part level, you have these handles that will appear on the part. In our case, we want to go to this bend handle, and if you right click, we can say edit distance from point on this, and we know from here it needs to be 7mm. So it's already set that way, but that's a handy way to adjust that bend after it's been placed at a certain distance. So if it needed to be 9mm, it's an easy way to adjust that as well. So you don't have to do any sketches or anything to get to that geometry. So now we have our overall dimensions pretty much set on this. And one thing I'd like to do here is they have a common bend that's going to be added to all these corners here, the 6 places here, that has a 10mm radius. So we're going to go into the sheet metal and just go ahead and add a corner break on our part, and we're going to set it to 10mm, and it's going to add it to all 6 of those corners for us automatically. And we'll go ahead and hit OK, and we'll apply that. So that's an easy way to get that started. Next, we'll go ahead and add these 2 holes here, and again, we could use some of these holes inside of here, or custom profile, or you can use the standard shapes as well. Either one will work. I'm going to drop it on the center point for the starting location, and we know that it has a diameter of 8 inside of there, and we want to have 2 of these, and the overall distance of those is 25. So to do that, I'm going to use the TriBall, and I'm going to right click and drag to the right, and I'm going to say link here because I'm going to make a copy to the other side and link them together. But I'm going to make one copy, and I just want to do it half the distance. So its total distance is 25, so half of that is 12.5, and I want to say repeat in the opposite direction. So the total distance will be the 25. So we'll go ahead and hit OK. Then we'll place both of those there. We can hit escape to get out of our TriBall and hit delete to go ahead and delete that hole. So that will automatically place those in those locations. And now if I want to position where these need to be, since I put it on the center point, I can select both of those, turn the TriBall back on, and do the same thing before. Is I can just right click on our center point and say edit distance from point, and we know that needs to be 45 from this bottom edge. So to give us that distance, we type in 45 and to place that. So that will essentially move those up. Next, we just had to place this cutout on here. So what I'm going to use is just use a standard extrude cut, and I'm going to place it on here, and I'm going to just size this to align to all this geometry here. And what we know is the overall distance of this, and why I aligned it to this back side is because I know this overall distance in this case is 16, so I can type in that 16 there. And now we want to set the width, and I dropped it on the center point, so I can simply just right click and size this symmetrically to a value of 37. So that's what that's going to be. And just to show you what I mentioned before, if I wanted to do a mirror command, I can do that here as well. So I can select that, go to our features. We have a mirror feature command. In our case, I can select a midpoint to mirror about. I don't have to have any planes or datum planes to mirror references about. I can use midpoints on a part as well, and I can hit OK, and that will place that for us. So that'll give us the same mirror shape on the other side. So I could have done that with the blend, these bends as well. So that's basically all it takes to build this model inside of there. And now we can go in here and go to our sheet metal, and it has a mass density of 7,800 for this guy. So if we look at that, it's about 394 is the mass in grams for this model, so that's what it takes to do that. And you can essentially also right click on this to unfold it just to see the flat pattern for that particular shape. You can look at it as well if you like to look at it from the top view. You can see that flat pattern as well. So that's just a simple way to build this model in IronCAD sheet metal. Really easy to do in IronCAD. Sheet metal parts are really nice and handy with IronCAD with all our handles. The way we can snap and reference all this geometry very easily in IronCAD. So hopefully you find this useful again for our sheet metal design, and we'll talk to you on the next one. Thank you.